Hello, everybody. We are here on episode number 4 of Split Happens, the podcast, where we talk all things divorce and take the shame out of the process. I am Kelly from K Collections Boudoir Photography, where I help women find their confidence behind the camera again. And this episode is sponsored by Balanced Health and Wellness, based out of Wading River, Long Island, New York, with many locations across the island.
My name is Jessica Maloney. I am a licensed mental health counselor and business coach for female entrepreneurs, and I help high-achieving women become highly sought after and highly paid unapologetically.
And I am Donna Rudowitz, and I am a licensed clinical social worker as well as a rapid transformational relationship coach, and I help women reclaim their power, recover their brilliance, and attract true love.
Well, I love that.
There's
nothing left out there. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's talk about it. All right. So we've made the decision. We're taking the leap. We've served papers. We've advised the other party that we want out. We began the process. Let's talk about those moments of panic, thereafter, because I think they come in waves. And I think 9 out of 10 people will admit that have been through the process. Not am I making a mistake because I necessarily love this person in a way where I want to stay, but am I making a mistake for all the logistics? And it's a sheer moment of panic where, am I going to stay? Because it is just going to be easier. I know I've gone through that myself, and I've actually contemplated. You hear people say all the time, like, I'm just going to stay until the kids are grown because it's easier. And it takes a lot of courage to say, I'm not waiting until my kids grow so that I can show them a good example of what a good marriage is. And I can claim happiness for myself, because if I'm not happy, my kids are not going to see the best version of myself. So I want to talk about those moments of panic for people who are listening, because you're probably going to go through it. So Donna, I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, well, I think what happens is in the beginning, you're ruled by emotion, right? Your heart's broken. You've got anger, frustration. You have all of the feelings. So your brain is like, we're going full force. And then once all the logistics begin to happen, you start filing the financial statements, right? You start filing, okay, well, here's what you're going to be getting for child support or alimony, or here's the pieces of the puzzle and where we're going to live. And now you have all these other logistics that start and begin to happen. So what ends up happening, I think, again, from my experience and for the women that I serve, is there's this moment of panic and fear of like, can I do this?
Yeah.
How? Or not even can I, but how?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this alone? And then that's when the fear begins to come in, because it's scary, right? It's like that first step is like, yep, I'm doing it. And then that second step is like, holy camoli, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah. Well, you said it's easier to just stay. And that's such a false belief system, because we're building that belief on what you know, right? So it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily easier to stay. It's just more familiar. It's the comfort zone, right? So you don't know what's going to get easier once you move forward. Right? There's a lot to figure out. And that's the scary part, because it's unknown. I've never done this before. I don't know how to do it. So there's the figuring out process, which can feel overwhelming in itself. But then you do, right? You figure it out. You seek support.
And I'm laughing, Jess, because I'm sure we've all had this happen. And tell me if you've had this, where you're finally getting your together again, right? So you finally have a little balance, and you go out maybe for the first time, maybe you go to a book club or you go to whatever, and you see someone and they begin to tell you the horror story of their aunt's divorce or this divorce and how horrible it was. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, right? Yeah. It's just like, now it's like your worst fears, or Google, right?
I never forget. I was going through the process, and I would be up because losing sleep was a thing for me.
I was 2 a.m.
The sheer moments of the middle of the night panic when you turn over and, you shared a bed with somebody for 20 years and, everything's all great during the day, but it was always the middle of the night that hit for me when I'd wake up to get some water and then not be able to fall back asleep and start Googling. And they say statistically, women who decide to divorce can end up in a very disparaged place for the rest of their life. So I started going down this rabbit hole. But if you look at statistics, but I actually sat there and I was giving these negative, this negative place, my time. And then, I was recently at the Boss Babes Who Brunch conference. And the one thing that I took with that, and even in my present relationship, I noticed that I had a really bad habit of not believing that the best is yet to come. So I've learned lessons in my new relationship, and that's really empowered me in my relationship. And then being at that conference this weekend really reiterated that concept for me. I can choose. I could choose to sit in those statistics, be afraid that I'm now a middle-aged woman who the rest of my life is going to be hard, or I can find my power. And that's what I'm choosing. I'm finding my power. I'm trying to look more further ahead in those moments where I panic, or I don't do it as often. I think it was more in the beginning. I panic now over the thought of going back, like more.
The game has changed though.
Yeah.
Like in 2026, like I don't know how old those statistics are, but like think about like what divorce really was like just a few years ago.
Sure.
You know, it made women out to be like, you know, like they're like untouchable anymore. Like there's something wrong with them, you know? So I think that like there probably were a lot of statistics that put women in this box that like, oh, now they're divorced, they're damaged in some way.
Yeah.
And like that's been something that we've just stayed with. But now like there's podcasts about it. Like there's conversations about it. There's groups about it. It's not something that's like hidden and terrible and scary. It's this thing that is like unfortunate. Nobody goes into any type of relationship expecting it to end. But it's unfortunately or fortunately not that uncommon anymore. And we can have real conversations about it.
Sure.
So it doesn't have to mean that like you're doomed for the rest of your life. But I know that feeling because I also had it, you know, as I was going through mine. I think I might have said this once before, but when you're in those moments, it's not that you're grieving the relationship itself. You're grieving the future that you had forecast.
Or the uncertainty is what causes the anxiety, you know, because you know, and to each their own, but I was not a jump shipper. I didn't go from my husband and the stability. Yes, even though the relationship wasn't for me, let's be real, financially, it was way more comfortable, way more secure, and way easier. You know, I didn't jump ship. I didn't say like, okay, I'm going to go live with somebody else and depend on somebody else. And, you know, I probably have a future with somebody else. Like I literally painted this picture like, all right, girl, like you got to assume like you're out here doing this on your own. And that's very scary when you financially, regardless of whether how good or bad the marriage was, have been financially, you know, cohesive with somebody for so long.
Can I ask you guys a question? Because I'm curious on this. Is in my experience of working with women at all levels, right, of life, even the women who are holding corporate executive positions, right? So it doesn't matter whether they choose to be a mom who's at home raising their children or they're running a corporate level. I find this to be consistent across the board. There's a piece of us that silently just wants to be saved.
Sure.
110%. But I remember my mom telling me like, you know, because I've had moments of despair, you know, like, why did I get like, you know, the ex-husband, you know, because I see certain situations where like, just because they're getting divorced, you know, the ex-husband still does protect and look after and want to make sure that that person is okay. And I had complete moments of like despair. And my mom looked at me and she's like, Kel, like, you're the only one that's going to save yourself in this lifetime. Like, get out of that mindset. And it was a game changer for me.
Well, yeah, I think it's also like that's the key point is in the despair of and being honest with ourselves. And that I don't think this is something that is subjective, meaning I think it's an inborn physiological trait that women have to want to be protected on a subconscious level, right? To be protected and desired and cherished. And so there's this embarrassing thing because we are successful and we do carry it to say, you know, this secret that we hold inside of just wanting to kind of just be saved and have someone else take it for us. And
absolutely. But I don't think that like, I guess my follow-up question is like, why does it have to be a secret, right?
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
For so long, I begged my ex-husband to save me.
Yes.
I was like, I am so unhappy. I need more. I need your help. Like, please stop hurting me. And I was begging him. Yeah. And then I learned how to save myself. I learned how to love myself.
That's the key.
And I just had this conversation with somebody last night, actually, because I was saying like, I know how to save me. I know how to protect me. I know how to take care of me. And I'm not wearing that as a badge of honor, but I know what I need to do. But it doesn't mean that I don't want you to be able to help me. It doesn't mean that I'm shut off to you coming in and supporting me through those things. Like I can do it alone. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that I want to.
We want to have that other person. And that's the key. I think we need to bring to the table to all of the ladies that are listening that it's okay to say this. Like this doesn't have to be shameful. We don't have to be embarrassed about it. And we can be at the point of, hey, listen, I can take care of ourselves. Because this also now we are in that space where women are bringing the income in where they don't necessarily need the money per se to help them survive. But it doesn't mean, at least for me, I was looking for a partner that would be able to support my drive and my vision for who I am, right? And my personality and my behavior of being able to be a woman who's an executive business owner without feeling insecure, without, you know, him feeling emasculated on it. But at the end of the day, that I needed to fall into someone's arms and feel safe.
I was going to say, you really nailed it, because I'm at a point where I am very independent. I am a power horse. I have my own business. And I also want to go ahead and make sure that we're speaking to the platform of women who have literally been home for the last 10 years, because I see it a lot in these mom groups, you know, these women who are literally like, I've been home for the last 10 years. I have nothing. I have no resume. I have no skills. I have nothing. And I don't know if I would speak to them the same way I'm speaking about myself, you know, as far as being independent. I started building my business probably a good 5 or 6 years before I told my husband, like, no, we're done. So I don't know if I would have been as confident, you know. And then granted, you know, there are certain situations like physical abuse where you don't have that time to sit around and wait, you know. So like, I want to make sure I'm not speaking just from a place of where I'm at, but also relating to those women who have no skill set. And personally, for me, I think I would offer them the advice that if, you know, you're not necessarily being abused to a point where you can't find yourself throughout the process, I don't think I would tell a woman to run until she builds herself up, you know, because I do think that it's virtually impossible.
Well, that's one thing that I had to do. Like, I had to be so sure that this was the next best thing, maybe not the right thing, but like, I had to be so sure. Like, it took me years to like figure out like what I was capable of. Like, I shared this at the conference, but like, one of the first things that I did once I realized that like it was my turn to like try to figure out if I could like live and survive on my own. It was like taking my 2 kids in the car by myself to the library.
I love that story.
It was terrifying to me though, but that was like crazy. Like, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can raise 2 kids on my own. So like, I had to test myself. I had to see if I could do it. But that built evidence that I could do it, because I didn't have evidence to support that I would be capable of it. And like, I think I shared this once before too, like starting my business, starting in the coaching world and like being able to help others was one thing that really helped set me free from that fear of like, I don't know if I can do this,
It's
you know,
funny,
and it built me a lot, and it helped me obviously to manage a little bit more financially.
Finding my own business in general. So I don't even know if it would necessarily be a business for some women, because not everybody is destined to find and maintain their own business, but find a career. You have to find your own means to support yourself to some capacity. When I made a decision to leave my marriage, I was pretty cocky about it. I was like, I got this. I mean, essentially I was doing better than him, you know, somewhat, you know what I mean? Let's just put it this way. I felt very confident when I was making my decision, you know? So, yeah, you know, you got to find what that is. And I'm not saying it's find your own business. We all speak because we are business owners, which is our commonality. But we're not saying that you have to, you know, you have to be that. You just got to find something, a foundation for yourself to, you know, claim your independence. But even going back to the thing that we were talking about prior, like not necessarily looking for someone to air quote, take care of me. And I think a lot of women go from that mentality and then they settle for another, you know, set of crap with another man, you know, like
well, it's the same, right? You're just exchanging, you know.
We don't want to do that, women.
And I'm thinking about what you both were saying, and it's interesting because when I look back at my story, I was always the one. I happened to be the breadwinner, right? But there was an illusion of security that I placed upon my ex that I gave. It was a perception that there was safety and security. It wasn't there because I was the one already taking care of myself. However, there was that illusion. And so it still took years to be able to really get into an alignment of what was really going on, where things were going wrong, what couldn't be fixed.
It's seeing yourself in a different light.
It's completely seeing yourself in a different light. But what I would also say is just something to every single woman who's out there. There's one piece of advice that I would offer for anyone who wants to hear it, right? Take it or leave it, is sometimes there's going to be a job and then there's going to be fulfillment. And I remember when I was first starting, I was trying to find this job that would make me happy in order to earn the money, but it wasn't in a skill set that I already knew. So for instance, I graduated with accounting and I graduated with business. I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted to do what I'm doing now, which is psychotherapy and helping people. So what I needed to do though, is I needed to humble myself and go to the job to make the money so I could support myself. And then on the side, I was doing the stuff that fulfilled me. and that made me happy. And then it eventually switched. So sometimes we have to just go to the skills we have. So maybe there's women out there who were, I don't know, let's just say they worked in finance before, you know, they left, right, to raise their children.
Go get a foundational base going for yourself, first, then build on your passion.
Then build on the passion.
I am very fortunate, that I have that situation.
Don't do it otherwise, because you know, it's if we try to do the passion first because we think this is good, you might not. You need to do something where you can do it with your eyes closed. You can count on it. You know it. You know you can make money at this.
I love that.
You get yourself settled. And you do something fulfilling on the side, and then it switches over time.
Yeah, right. I think it's permission to get started again.
That's all.
You know,
just take the first step.
I had a client who was in a similar situation. She was not working for a long time because she was raising her kids, and her ex-husband was taking care of, you know, the bills and everything. And then when she was, you know, faced with this divorce, you know, she wasn't the one to initiate it. She was like, what am I going to do? I haven't worked in so long, you know, but then, you know, she put herself out there. She ended up getting a job, and now she's advanced in the last couple of years to an incredible position.
And I'm just going to bring this to every woman again who's listening, just to perspective, because there's working in the home and working outside of the home. I believe every woman works.
Literally just
right.
The
so
let's
a lot harder. Let's just say that, like, even if you're home, you're working, and perhaps your work is, you're the
skills
CEO.
Count for more
Those
than you're
skills are transferable in anything.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'll never forget. I had a friend, right, and I was telling her, I was like, because I've always worked. I've never not worked. There was maybe 2 years out of the 20 that I guess you could say was fortunate to be able to stay home. But like, I remember saying to my friend, I'm like, I don't think I could do this. And she's like, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit for all the things that you currently do to keep your family together. She's like, Kel, I don't even think you're going to feel that much of a difference. So like, if there's any woman out there right now listening.
Sometimes it is like, I'm going to work. Bye.
If there's any woman out there listening right now, maybe take 5 minutes if you're listening to this show to just assess what you're doing that may have been devalued, talked down, because my ex-husband, well, technically still legally my husband, he talked down to me a lot, and he actually allowed me to not give myself enough credit for the things I was actually bringing to the table. So take a step back really quick and maybe reassess, and maybe it's not financially, but hey, maybe he was bringing in the money and you were paying the bill, so you already have that skill set. Now just insert your own income, and I think a lot of women also get very scared of the legal process. I see, like, on a lot of these like forums, what am I going to get? Am I really going to get it? Know your legalities too, because if you were home, I mean, there is such a thing as alimony and maintenance for a reason to get you back on your feet. So
what we're finding now,
right?
The women is paying the alimony.
I was about to say, there's a lot of men out here who should be nervous about losing, the wife. The roles are reversing.
I'm seeing this more and more. Is that it's the women now that they have a lot to lose.
Yeah. But like, I'm all for like getting a lawyer, like
100%.
Lawyer up,
lawyer,
like
100%.
Having that legal advice and just the belief behind you. If you don't know about it, that was the most valuable thing that I did, because my ex was like, we can just go through mediation. I was like, absolutely not.
Listen, if you could get along, let's just say at the end of the day, I went to my husband 4 years ago, and I said, let's just go to mediation. And essentially, guess what? We're pretty much agreeing on everything we could have agreed on in mediation for $5,000. So I do highly suggest it, but I think at the end of the day, a lot of women don't leave because they can't afford the legal counsel. So that's also something to keep in mind, like, start stacking away, for yourself, because you are going to need some kind of legal advice. I tried it in the beginning. I'm like, I'm going to go to the law library and I'm going to figure this all out myself.
Yeah, no, you need, I suggest, I mean, like you said, mediation, if it's the right couple.
Yeah.
But if there's any narcissism, if there's any conflict, if there's any, it just does not work. And then what you'll do is because this has happened consistently over time that I see, you spend the $5,000 or $6,000 on mediation to end up having to retain an attorney.
It's crazy.
Anyway.
Even just to give them a call, get some information, see what your rights are. Sometimes that's just the confidence boost that you need, because knowledge is power.
Yeah.
So the more you know, the less they can try to make some sort of persuasive comments to make you think that you're not entitled to certain things.
And I think it's being, sorry.
No, I was going to say, yeah, like get an opinion from like the top divorce attorneys on Long Island, because once you get an opinion from them, your ex-spouse can no longer use them.
Yes,
I don't know if anyone knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's very much a
if
thing.
they had an appointment.
Divorce attorneys listening are going to kill me, but even if you can't afford them and they're the best around, just go get some advice from
phone
them.
calls.
But
Make a Rolodex real quick.
I do just want to interrupt the message to remind anybody listening today that this episode of Split Happens is brought to you and sponsored by Balanced Health and Wellness in Wading River, with many locations across the island.
So, and I was also going to say is to ensure that you have something that I call a board of directors. Have your financial person, have a tax person, have your, legal, have a therapist, have the people around you that are going to be able to give you the correct information.
Yeah.
And the biggest, again, I think looking back now, what I wish I had that I have now that I didn't have then was emotional regulation.
Oh God, that's the one thing
I just wanted it to be over. I was like, I was up, I was down, and I was doing anything. And even my lawyer said to me, Donna, don't do this. And my ex-husband's like, I'll meet you in the back, just sign it in the, we'll do it. And I kind of did that. Like I look back and I did that because I just wanted it to be over. I was so emotionally distraught. I was so emotionally
that's
activated.
Where I'm at too.
I was in this space. I was just like, I just want it to be over. I just want it to be over. And can I share a story here? Because I think
we are down to 3 minutes.
Okay,
so
this is incredibly important because it relates to something. So I made a lot of mistakes. So I would say emotional regulation.
Okay,
but it came out again recently with my daughter Rebecca.
Okay,
so my daughter Rebecca is a nurse. She was going to work and she parked in a parking lot, and she has a brand new car, a Hyundai. Someone backed into it and left. Right, just no note, no nothing, and unfortunately, all the sensors got all messed up.
Okay.
So when she's driving, it just is beeping and it's trying to.
So it's fixed, but still a hot mess.
It's drivable, but it's still a hot mess.
Okay.
So I told her to turn off her sensors, but she went and we got an estimate. The estimate was $4,500 because everything is new. There's no aftermarket part. You have to buy it new. Yeah. And she's like, I'm just going to pay it. I said, Rebecca, just before you pay it, let's just calm our nervous system down. Let's see if we could get the cameras from the place that you were at. Let's see if maybe Hyundai is going to pause.
It's the practice of pause. I've seen divorce attorneys online say, if there's one thing I can teach you in the process is practice
of pause.
The pause. Right. And I think that is ultimately
and
it
she
at
did.
the end of the
day.
So
she finally, she reluctantly did that. Okay. And I said, because what we're going to do is the intention and our spiritual, like where we're going to bring it in is that this is fixed, this is healed, the least amount of money out of pocket. Well, anyway, long story short, we connected with a friend who has and owns a Hyundai dealership. And it turns out when he looked at it, most of this is covered under warranty. Right. She's paying nothing.
I love it.
Fabulous.
To get it repaired.
Right. At the end of the day, if she hadn't paused, she may have gotten herself into more
spending $5,000 more than she had to.
Well, guys, I am so glad that we were able to talk to the platform of women because, like I said, I don't think there's anybody going through it that's not going to have that sheer moment of panic. So thank you for all sharing individually your experiences with that. In case you're wondering how you can find us and what we do, you can go ahead and find us at splithappensli.com. And it will route you to all of our information, our sponsor, and also our services on what we do outside of this table. Thank you for joining and sharing today, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.